Hello, everybody. It is January 16th, about 12:30. Oh, just had a strange couple of days. Usually I just sit down and kind of get lost in my parts and, finding images and recording them and doing that. I pull up more to the memory, little details, things like that. But yesterday I just couldn't. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus. I couldn't get to that place. And I had some body memories. I had a mild headache, which by the end of the night it turned into not awful, but it was, moderate to very uncomfortable. My neck was tense and my heart was racing. And I went and did a couple of TED Talks and it didn't really seem to relieve it. And I finally went to bed. Actually, I watched three TED Talks before I went to bed and I was able to go to sleep. I did have a few memories that I recorded, but finally got a decent night's sleep. I had, the two nights prior, only about 5 hours sleep each night. And so just kind of spaced out and not myself and obviously disassociating or I kept thinking, well, there's probably a big incident I'm about to remember. And still, if it's there, it still hasn't surfaced yet. But today I woke up more rested, like I said, but still feeling spaced out and a little disconnected. Not as bad, but I went and walked my dog and I felt myself kind of getting that spacey feeling and then coming back into, real life and whatever. And I came back and did a TED Talk and I was reminded of let me find this thing here. I was reminded of the movie Forrest Gump in that scene where let me type this in. Forrest Gump. The scene where Lieutenant Dan is yelling at God. And for weeks I'd been thinking about that, and of course now I can't find it. On boat. Yeah, Lieutenant Dan boat scene. Oh shoot, where is it? There it is. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting ready for you. Yikes. Of course, there's a commercial. Let me pause this and get it ready. Anyway, for weeks I've been thinking about how, and you will have seen this. I'm gonna sync these up so the TED Talk I did with these realizations goes with, will be yesterday if you're watching this now. But I was realizing that it's okay to yell at God, and I have before, just kind of in a limited way, and I remember once I had my sister do that. I said, beat on your bed, yell at God. It's okay to yell at God. And it is because he understands what you're angry about. But the realization I had connected with it was, well, y'all saw it yesterday on the TED Talk, was different. And I just thought, I think I want to bring that up and show it again here. Oops, I guess y'all don't you see the stuff I'm working on. And I made my screensavers. It's scrolling through my file of parts. So now when I open up my computer, my background is my parts. So I can get to know Jody and her face better because I got over 600 people and I'm not remembering their faces. I do like the first 100, but not really after that. Thank you, Jody. Anyhow, here's that scene and I'll play it for y'all. Oh, where's the audio? Oh, come on now. Well, I guess I'll just insert it. Oh, there. I guess that helps, huh?
No shrimp.
Where the hell's this god of yours?
It's funny Lieutenant Dan said that, because right then, God showed up.
I guess I just want to see it again next time.
Now me, I was scared.
Floated up.
But Lieutenant Dan, he was mad.
Not God wanting to take us, it's Lucifer wanting to take us.
You call this a storm? Oh, you son of a... Oh! It's time for a showdown! You and me!
And the
I'm
first.
right here! Come and get me! You'll never sink this boat!
Never sink us.
Hurricane Carmen came through here yesterday, destroying nearly everything in its path. And as in other towns up and down the coast, Biola Battery's entire shrimping industry has fallen victim to Carmen and has been left in utter ruin. Speaking with local officials, this reporter has learned, in fact, only one shrimping boat actually survived the storm.
Louise, that's fast.
After that, shrimping was easy. But since people still needed them shrimps for shrimp cocktails and barbecues and all, we were the only boat left standing. Bubba Gump shrimp's what they got. We got a whole bunch of boats, 12 Jennies, big old warehouse. We even have hats.
Anyhow, sorry, the clip I found earlier didn't have all this extra stuff, but I just wanted to share that again because that scene has gone through my mind. I can't count how many times over a couple of months now, and I've been meaning to talk about it, and I did. But in that clip, he's yelling at God to bring it on. You'll never sink me, whatever, whatever, whatever. And it's not God that's trying to sink us. The boat being us, the survivors, it's Lucifer and the perps and the evil that was trying to sink us. And you got to yell at Ted and tell him, you didn't sink me. I'm here. I'm standing. I'm alive. And I'm remembering and I'm talking about it. And, if you're not talking about it, when you're ready, you're ready. But it's very empowering, I guess, is what I want to say. So not just doing a TED talk, but, speaking your testimony out loud to the world. And you don't have to do a YouTube channel or whatever, but write a book or talk to your counselor, whatever. Just get it out of you. You have to. Because as long as you don't, you're keeping all those parts and those experiences still hidden, and the perps are winning. They're winning as long as you do. So I pray God give you strength and courage and help you heal. And there is empowerment in it. It's not just healing, it's empowering. It's reclaiming your sovereignty and your life, and God within you starts fighting back. And it's just a good thing. So I thought I would do journals today. I got 4 pages. Hopefully it's not super long. So here's June 10th of 24. And I'll just interject here real quickly. It's funny because when I sit down to do these, I don't remember what I wrote on June 24th, and I don't read through them before I do the talk. I just sit down and do them. But it's funny that the parts inside know. And I wonder if it isn't because they know. I didn't even know I was going to do journals today, but because I can't seem to focus doing parts work, I thought, let me just shift gears, do something different. Let's do a journal, do some videos. And anyhow, but like the parts seem to know, not seem to, they know what's in the journals at the exact date. They know it's coming. All in my mind, and the conscious front part of me does, I know what I wrote about back then, but not the little details. So I'm just wondering if it isn't them about to relive this or reread it that could be causing my spaced out, foggy state. Anyhow, so I woke up feeling pretty good. I had lots and lots of dreams. I had a whole powwow with all the parts last night as well as we were laying down. And forgive me 1 second. I'm not sure if I'm sharing, and I think I won't because I'll let y'all look at me instead of tiny little words on the screen. So But we also had a circle meeting, for lack of a better word. And let me interject here what a parts puddle is. When I was taking care of my mother-in-law for 4 months, she watched this show on YouTube called Safari Live. And it's a YouTube channel where you get to be on the back of a Jeep and the camera is the person taking the safari, and you get to not interact with, but see the safari guides, and they'll talk to you and talk to the camera just like I'm doing now. But anyway, when they would come upon lions that were sleeping, because lions will sleep in a big puddle together. And so at this point in time, as more and more parts were becoming conscious, I was kind of visualizing this in my head as I laid down to go to bed. It's like everybody can pile on the bed. Come here, let me hug who needs to be hugged, or everybody pile on the bed. That was before I built Lake City on my PowerPoint for them to live in. And it just popped in my head, we're gonna have a parts puddle. So that's my way of saying, let's have a meeting, let's cuddle, let's hang out together. So that's it. We had a parts puddle. But we also had a circle meeting, for lack of a better word. I invited them all to live with me here and to work with each other, and for each part to think about what they'd like to do instead. I promised them that in time I would destroy those places where they live, just like Blue's Cave got blown up. They're all very excited about that, and all very excited about having new purposes, and hesitant and uncertain. But they joined the circle. I noticed that they were all in their cliques, so I asked them to switch places and mix themselves up and hold hands with someone that they never held hands with before. And I stood in the center and I stood in the circle with them. And we just chatted about different things. So in my dreams, were about lots of different groups of people doing lots of different things together. So after this parts puddle, I fell asleep. That's what I dreamt about. Lots of different groups of people doing lots of different things together. So I thought that was cool that it expressed itself in my dreams. As I said, I woke up feeling good. Had lots of parts saying, let's do a video today. Let's do a video today. I wanted to work on Pavlov, or the dream. Pavlov would have been one for Alan Watts' channel, or The Dream I've posted months ago. So we were battle planning that out. Chris is still sleeping, so I came out into the garden to get my morning chores done. After those were done, I sat down in the shade to have a cigarette. I saw something in the garden to do, so I went up to get to do it, and I was pushed back down, and Night said, no, it can wait. So I sat back down to realize that Knight and Katerina are in an absolute panic about doing a video. I asked them what was going on, and they said, we don't talk. We don't talk. I asked them if they would look out my eyes and look around. I think they did for a brief moment. I said that you're not in that castle anymore. You don't have to be in that castle. You can walk out now. They stood at the door and held hands in their armor together, and they showed me some things. There's a part named Bullet. She is in utter terror. Now, I'm going to interject here because I know I lost the session right before this. And what it was I had images of a knight in a castle. And he started to show me things about, well, what happened to him in this castle. I didn't know where the castle was or anything like that, but so that's night. And then Katerina showed herself, and they're both wearing armor. And so that's what I'm talking about here. When all the ceremonies were done and they were about to leave, oh, okay, so that's the session that y'all met, or not missed, but I lost. Was I was taken to a castle, and there were two parts created. One was a sex slave and one was a killer. And depending on what room I walked into, a different part kicked into gear. And so they went through this. It was, I think, 13 different rooms. And so Katerina was raped 13 different times, and once a bestiality rape. And Night Well, that's how it went. Yeah, Katerina first was taken around the castle. First, she was in like an initiation room, and some creepy head guy came in there and raped her and rubbed feces and urine all over her, with 12 other people. So it's 13 victims, and then they had a an animal come in and rape each of us vaginally, anally, and orally. After that was done, we were properly initiated, and part of this was the animal would rape me anally, and then they would take feces and put a mark. Well, and you can visualize this on my back because the anal one, I got a mark on my back. The vaginal one, and they took feces and marked like this from my vagina all the way up to my shoulders, the sign of horns. And they did that on my back. And then when it was oral, they did the same thing with my face. So I was marked by the beast. I was claimed by the beast. Katerina was. And then after that, like initiation in this one room, and then she was taken to 13 rooms and was a sex slave in these 13 different rooms. And then when that was done, they accessed her, switched her into night, which at a young, this is in my 20s when I was in Germany in the army. Because they knew my programming as a child, I was made to do killings. They accessed night, split off my young assassin part and made an adult assassin part. And he went through these 13 different rooms and would, depending on the mark that was on the child there or the adult, would either be to decapitate that person or disembowel them. So Knight and Katerina had to go through, and Knight went through the 13 rooms. So two parts going through these 13 rooms in this castle. And anyway, so that's them saying, I asked them what was going on, and they said, we don't talk. We don't talk. Because they had revealed that to me the night before. I asked them if they would look out my eyes and look around. I think they did for a brief moment. I said, you know, you're not in that castle anymore. Because the night before, I invited them to come and stay with me here, and they weren't ready to. And I said, that's okay. I said, at least look out the windows. I said, you can walk out now. They stood at the door and held hands in their armor together. And it wasn't side by side. They face each other and have their arms out and are locked together, facing each other in their armor. And then they showed me some things. There's a part named Bullet. She is an utter terror. When all the ceremonies were done, what I just told you, and they were about to leave, they were stripped naked and put in the center of a circle of black robes. There was probably 50 black robes. I saw an image of Knight and Katerina standing facing each other with Bullet stripped naked between them. They were guarding her fiercely. They showed me images of her in the center of this circle of 50 black robes, and all of them in unison, and each one individually. Each and every one of them had a gun pointed at us, and some of them had long spears that were poking into my skin all around. The guns would come up and touch our skin all over, one in the forehead, one in the mouth, one in each eye, each side of the neck, just all over. They would say what they were going to say and step back. Then the people with the swords would come up and in the same place as the guns. Then they would step back. Then they would alternate across the room and tell us why we would never talk. Then everyone stepped back except 12. They stood at each of the 12 directions of the globe. Each one in turn came forward and I listened and listed out who I loved, their names, where they were, and what they would do to them, that they knew the worst fear of each. They would never talk because they are all over the world in every community in every nook and cranny. We would be watched throughout our entire life. Should we ever talk about this, not only would my life be destroyed, but everyone around me that I love, even ones that I don't know, just for the fun of it. I urged Knight, who did the speaking for all three of them, that it was okay. we would not do a video today. And he said that he knows that we're going to do a video regardless down the road. I told him, yes, we would, but by then he would work out a lot of his fears. I discussed with him that he would get to know the truth tellers and the rebels, and he might change his mind. He and Katerina stood as a wall around Bullet in front of that castle at the doorway. Right now, I'm thinking at least they're outside of the castle in the doorway. I keep encouraging them to look through my eyes and see where we live and what we do. Knight said, it doesn't matter, they will find us. They will kill us and everyone and everything in our lives. Knight and Katerina stands with him. Oh, I'm sorry. Knight said Katerina stands with him. Bullet stands between them. They pointed out the fact that I was still raped afterwards by the mafia and Scientology, so that boy that I thought was a random stranger was a Scientologist. I do recall right now they both told me to keep my mouth shut for the rest of my life, as it was years later that two separate other rapes happened out in the regular world. Knight is telling me that we would be disemboweled in the worst possible way. Now, Alan Watt is who I'm referring to here, once told a story of torture from days gone by, that they would pull a person's intestines out, tie it to a pole, and that person was made to walk around the pole until their intestines were completely out and tight, and they're bleeding to death and they were still alive. Knight says that will never happen to us because he will never allow it. Katerina backs him up, absolutely. And Bullet stands between them, terrified. Bullet, listen to this as I speak. You have yet to be in a parts puddle or parts circle. We will love you and take care of you, all of us together. It's your strength and all the strength of all the others that will pull us through. Smarty Pants will think of a way to live and talk. Knight and Katerina and Bullet are still standing in the doorway and are walking back into the castle now. I'm going to tell all three of you to at least start looking out the windows. I had Knight, Katerina, and Bullet all work on Ted for a little bit. Katerina really enjoyed herself. Bullet did a few whacks and was done. Knight told me to go get Chris's bayonet, so I did. So I used the bayonet quite a few times. He disemboweled that thing several times. Sliced it up pretty good, too. So that was June 10th. And June 11th. The next day. And I hope this isn't too repetitive for y'all, because I know that tomorrow as I air the journal, you'll hear this again, but you get to hear it, what my counselor said. And this reading really is about if I've had different realizations since then, because this is now what, 6 or 7 months on, and that part is very different now than it was when I wrote this. So this is the 11th of July in the morning. Oh, okay. I woke up the next morning after the castle ritual, really out of it. Now, this is in the real world after I got back to the barracks and went to sleep. I was so glad to have a week off. I'm still in the military. I remember Lonnie, apart, was telling me that I must have gotten really wasted last night because I didn't remember a thing. Just sore. There's tiny cuts all over my body. After a couple of days, the sergeant that took me on the date came and told me later that day that he was posted to a new base, so he wouldn't be able to come and see me anymore, but that I had done a good job as Soldier of the Month. He pushed on a cut and I winced. My right knee was sore and I didn't know why. I was too wasted that night to remember. I asked my date before he walked off what happened because I had tiny little cuts all over me. He said, "Oh, we were just playing a drinking game and you kept losing. Don't worry about it. They will heal quickly." I pressed him about it, but he said that he had to go and pack and get ready to go, that his ride would be there shortly. I couldn't remember anything. He spun around and was gone. I was perplexed. Now, obviously, this man who wanted to date me, and I went on a few dates, was my handler. And I didn't know it. I thought he was the guy who wanted to date me. That night, Germany is the part that was the party girl in Germany. Her part name is German. That night, Germany went out with friends and tripped right in front of the barracks. I smashed that very same knee. Quite a scrape on it, too, blood dripping down my leg and on my pants. And I ripped my new pants open at the knee as well. I was pissed off that I ruined my new pants. That's why I was limping around, because I tripped. Now, Bullet is talking here. That was the girl intimidated into silence about the castle stuff. Bullet saying, "Not from the man that kicked me just before I left the castle. When he did, I fell to my hands and knees. Some women in black robes dragged me up and escorted me to another building to get dressed and leave. All my stuff was laid out." Now, this is back in the castle again. "I was moving in a daze, and they kept hollering for me to hurry up. Once I was dressed, they pushed me to the door and said the driver would take over from here. They literally pushed me out the door and closed it. The driver was standing there and pushed me into the back seat. He got in, and then we left." Now, this is a military vehicle with a soldier driving. I had to keep that bullet in my mouth the whole time. I had to bite it between my teeth. Because as they were doing that ritual with the people coming up with the guns, they'd step back, and then people with the knives would come up and step back. I had to keep a bullet in my mouth and bite down on it. You know, I had to keep that bullet in my mouth the whole time. I had to bite it between my teeth. Now this is on the cab, or not the cab ride, the ride back to the barracks after it was all over. I dropped it once while I was getting dressed, and one of the ladies in black robes backhanded me with an uppercut from my jaw to my eye. And I put it back in my mouth. She told me, "Don't let it drop out of your mouth unless it's asked for, until it's asked for." I got dressed and was driven back to the base. I stared out the window, quiet the whole time. No talking with a bullet in your mouth. The driver kept looking up in the mirror to make sure I had that bullet in my mouth. When he saw it slumped down, he told me, "You better bite down on that thing hard. Keep biting down on it." My face and jaw hurt a lot from getting smacked in that stupid bullet. There was the taste of metal through my mouth. The driver pulled up the barracks door, and there was a female Hispanic sergeant who opened the door and said, "I'll take that now." "I'll take that now," dropped it in her hand. The driver nodded when I looked at him. She took the bullet and put it in her pocket and pulled me out. She helped me to stand up, and she smoothed my clothes out and my hair a bit. Then we walked into the building. When we walked into the barracks, the person on guard duty looked, and she said, "Boy, you had one hell of a night bar hopping, didn't you?" She turned to the guard and said that. She ran into me at the front door. She told him that she would take me to my room and get me in bed. He nodded. She took me to my room and closed the door. She walked me to my bed and sat me down. I just fell backwards. She handed me a pill and dragged me to sit up. She had a glass of water and said, "Take this and drink it." I did. And then I passed out. Now, Avers is another part. That's who's talking here. She's the soldier. Germany's the party girl. Avers is the soldier. Through the week, the same people who were patting me on the back before I went to Soldier of the Month, well, to this castle, were now doing it afterwards and kept saying what a great job I had done for Soldier of the Month. Now, what happened was I did this Soldier of the Month thing and I won it. And it was a preliminary to go to this SRA ritual. It was some sort of preliminary step in going there. Now, at the castle was where I had the tiny little cuts all over me. And so they knew what I had been through. I didn't. So through the week, the same people who were patting me on the back before I went were now doing it afterwards and saying what a great job I had done for Soldier of the Month. But what they were referring to was the castle ritual, because they couldn't say that in public. And as they said it, they would touch a spot where there was a tiny cut, a way to reinforce me to stay quiet. As they did, they would touch the spots for the tiny little cuts. I would try and pull away, but they just pushed their hands or fingers down harder. A constant reminder to be silent. There are tiny little cuts behind my knees, so every time I sat down, I felt it. Each place I could feel throughout the day. I couldn't understand where they all came from. They healed in a week or so, the week that I had off from work, which was my reward for getting Soldier of the Month. Also very well thought out and orchestrated. Now here's Germany, the party girl talking again. That was the same female sergeant that came and counseled me for having a picture taken when I was naked on a date with that very same sergeant, the one who told me it was circulated throughout the barracks. And how stupid could I be to allow that to happen? I was embarrassed and humiliated, and I told her I'd never done anything like that before, but that my date insisted and took it when I wasn't looking. And that was the truth. I believe it was that photo that somehow put me in the running for Soldier of the Month. I wish I could remember his name. Top's office. Now, Top is the head head sergeant. What is his name? Is it Sergeant Major? I can't remember. But he's the head enlisted person in the barracks. But he's kind of like I wouldn't say the equivalent of a general, because there's the officer class and then there's the enlisted class. And Top is the top guy who runs the barracks. He's got all the officers and stuff interact with him, and at some levels they're equal. Anyway, so Top's office was the first step. Then because I was raped in his office. Then I was passed on to the soldier who took the picture and took me on dates, which wound up being the circus, which was where I was taken to an officers' club and raped by several of us were raped by several, or I would say more than a handful of officers in this club, and they called it the circus. So first I was in Top's office being raped. Then they have this sergeant come and date me, takes me to the circus, which is the officers' club where they're doing their satanic raping, and then Soldier of the Month, past that, and then the castle. So there's a sequence of events. And after that, he disappeared. Top was now bringing someone else into his office for conversations. I was left alone. I had 4 more months until I left there and flew to Texas. I believe I was observed during this 4 months just to make sure I would be quiet. Now, I'm still in a bit of confusion about the time frame here, because I found some old letters that I wrote to my mom when I was there, and the timing doesn't line up. So I think this could be correct because I went to Berlin, and I can't remember if I went after this SRA thing or before, and there was more crap that went on in Berlin, but I wound up in El Paso pregnant, and I was pregnant from the rapes in the castle. And the military people in El Paso knew it, because when I first got there, I had to go have a medical exam taken. Nobody else did, but I did. And they found out that I was pregnant, did not tell me, and then did a forced abortion on me, and I didn't even know what was going on. Anyway. So Avers, here's the soldier talking again. Once I got to El Paso, I made an offhand comment to someone who asked me what it was like in Germany. I said, "Oh, it was just fine. The circuses and the castles." He spun his head around and said, "What circuses? What castles?" I said, "Oh, not circuses. I meant to say Oktoberfest. They're like a circus," and that I had gone on a tour of castles when I was there. And both of those things were true. By the way, that tour of the castles was recommended by my boss in the kitchen. He's the one that also recommended I go to that concentration camp tour as well. This was all before Top used to ask me into his office to rate me. He also is the one that gave the cake decorating classes that I enjoyed a lot. So I'm working in the kitchen. I get there, I'm working in the kitchen. My boss in the kitchen says, "Oh, let's go on a tour of the castles. Oh, let's go on a tour to the concentration camp." And he also did a cake decorating class. And then all of a sudden now I'm in Top's office being raped. And now all of a sudden I have a sergeant that wants to date me. And then he takes me to the circus where I'm raped by these officers, talks me into doing Soldier of the Month, which I passed, which I shouldn't have passed, but I did. And then now I'm wound up in a castle being with an SRA ritual. So when I first got to Germany, there were 4 girls in our barracks room. After a short while, 2 of them left. Then it was me and another girl. We rearranged the room so that it looked like an apartment. Pretty cool. People would come to our room to hang out and party. The other girl that I shared the room with had a boyfriend who lived off base and stayed there all the time. So I got to have that 4-bed room all to myself. Half of it I made into an apartment with her couch and entertainment center and stereo. I had all of my crystal glass collection set up in a glass door cabinet. It was really quite pretty. It was like that for quite some time. Then Leanne came and took her bed. I have a picture of the first girl with her and her boyfriend and me and Leanne on that couch partying. I should have had that pulled out. Anyway, they used to invite us out to their place. I don't recall going. Leanne did not go. We smoked hash. While I was alone in that room, I had a boyfriend named David Allen Montgomery. He was very tall and handsome. He would come and go through the window. He would sneak in at night and spend all night with me and then sneak out in the morning before anyone else was up. He proposed to me and I accepted. I still have that tiny little engagement ring. I later found him cheating on me and I broke up with him. I had to chase him down from bar to bar one night looking for him. I found him with another girl very close. I confronted him and he gave me some BS story. I didn't believe him. I kept the ring. He must have snuck in and out of that window dozens of times. One time we had a room inspection, Leanne and I. The first sergeant, Top, came in and saw the apartment room and shook his head. He said this wasn't military spec or something like that. I said, well, as long as we keep it clean and no one else needs to move in, what's the problem? He shook his head and left. And I realize now that, in any other scenario, that would have never been tolerated, but that was like my perk for him raping me. Leanne and I rented a car and drove around der Bodensee, a lake between Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. It was a really cool vacation. And I realize right now it wasn't Leanne and I that drove around the sea. It was my boyfriend David Montgomery and I that drove around. But this time I didn't know that. I had my memories mixed up. Well, then we thought our next trip would be to go drive to Berlin, and we did. Now, I did go to Berlin with Leanne. It took us weeks to get permissions to do that. That's where we discovered and went through the underground city that's like a shopping center. We ran into a couple of German guys and went back to their place. They were creepy. They wanted us to go into the basement to party. Leanne was naive and said, yeah, let's go. I said, no way, I want to leave. We left. She was mad at me. I was pretty sure there were bad things going on down there. We had a nice vacation anyway. Later on, the girl that owned all the furniture took it out. We rearranged it back because there were new girls coming in. Those are the last 4 months I was there. I just remembered the sergeant that took me on a date and had me smoke hash, and we had that 2-hour drive, and he was making me laugh all the time. He did tell me that we were going to Himmler's castle. I said, Himmler's castle? What are we going to do there? He asked me if I knew anything about Himmler or World War II. I said, not really, just Hitler in the concentration camps. He said they had a restaurant in there and we were going to go have dinner there. I wasn't sure if I should take him seriously or not because he kept saying one thing and then saying another. But he did say, no, seriously, we are going to go to Himmler's castle. It's a really big deal. You'll love it. And that's where all that SRA happened. I asked him if what I was wearing was okay for the castle, and he told me that it wouldn't be a big deal at all, not to worry about it, because I'd be naked. When I had the room to myself and after David and before Leanne is when Top would ask me into his office. I'm trying to figure out what came first, second, and third. I remembered walking out of my room, really enjoying it and having it all to myself. I was wandering down the hall because I was bored. There were a couple of other girls in another room across the hall, but they were working. It was just the 3 girls in the whole barracks. That's when Top invited me into his office. Then the circus, then the soldier of the month, then the castle. It's the strangest thing. I wiped the upper corner of my nose and something brown and sticky came out of it. I've never seen anything like it before. My first thought was it was feces. Now this is as I'm writing the journal, and I went like that. and I had like a pea size of feces come out of my mouth. And I think God was expelling it from me. It was just bizarre experience. I was absolutely starving the next day after the castle. I had not eaten for almost 24 hours. That's when I went to the mess hall and more people touched my sores. So I can't count how many people, officers and enlisted, upper level enlisted soldiers were triggering those spots to ensure my silence. Every time they pushed on one, it was my shoulders, the back of my knees, just different places, and it would reinforce that intimidation to be quiet. It was all very well orchestrated. And so now here's the next day. So this is June 11th of the 24th. Waking. Today I woke up at around 6 or 6:30. I heard Chris moving around. I had gotten to bed probably before 2 o'clock. Very sleepy. I slept, walked through my routine getting Chris's lunchbox ready, and I also went outside and watered the plants that needed to be watered. I walked Chris out to the truck and gave him a kiss goodbye. Then, of course, Sarge, my part, had me take the trash to the curb because I'm half asleep. But she made me take that trash out. I came in and laid back down with an eye mask on. I was fully expecting to drop off for 2 or 3 hours. I set an alarm for 9 o'clock. I lay there thinking about last night's memories and also listening to the toilet run for a minute and then not run for 3 or 4 minutes. So, so was couldn't go. So I thought to hell with it, just get up. So I did. I realized Sleepy was in operation. I have a part named Sleepy. She told me to go take a shower, so I did. Sleepy takes a shower colder than the others. I remembered when my date told me we were going to Himmler's castle. The driver's head popped up and glared at him through the rearview mirror. He said something like, "You know you shouldn't talk about that." The cab driver. My date said, "She's so out of it, she'll never remember." After we got to the castle and I was being walked in, I spun my head around to see where he was, my date. He and the driver were standing outside of the Jeep, and the driver backhanded him. "Oh, so it wasn't a taxi, it was a Jeep. I just realized that." Wow. He was being scolded. I'm sure it was for that. Sleepy was born when I was a little girl just starting kindergarten. Sleepy used to just sleep until she woke up. Now Mama had to shake her awake. Sleepy had a hard time getting up to go to school. But once Sleepy was up and walking around for a while, eventually another part took over. Just like right now, John is working. My part called John, my counselor, working on this stuff. Hopefully I can get a nap this afternoon. I also finished my emotional impact graphs. Instead of having one super long one that would not print properly, I broke it up into 5 different ones. Constant roller coaster throughout my entire life. So it's no surprise that now as I'm doing this process, it's a constant roller coaster day to day. Thursday I felt awful, Friday was better. Saturday was awful, Sunday was better. Monday was good, and today I'm back down sleepy and tired. Sleepy wants to cry. Sleepy used to cry a lot. Sadie, another part, is her friend. Sadie cries a lot. But the others tend to step in and take over. I remember Mom being perplexed over and over again as to why I was so tired. I would sleepwalk through my morning routine as she sent me off to school. Angie and Mary would always get annoyed because they had to push me along as I was walking to school with them. Lots of us were sleepy and got pushed down, and Lonnie and Smarty Pants woke up. So that lots of us is a reference to, every single part that had to stay up late and would come back home and either get no sleep, 2 hours sleep, whatever, and you'd have to switch and go into your daytime personality. So now here's another entry. Germany, the part. I recorded my parts work, dried my hair. Now I'm having my hungover breakfast, toast with butter and bacon sandwich. I used to have this all the time when I had to go in at 4 a.m. to work in the kitchen and was hungover. I was absolutely starving the next day after the castle. I had not eaten for almost 24 hours. That's when I went to the mess hall. More people touched my sores. So that's that entry. So you'll see the journals are not going to come chronologically. It's not always going to be just one part talking. Um, it's going to be all sorts of different, and it's all, for me, it's all my voice in my head. And I just write it down, write it down, write it down. And when I go back with some understanding and awareness of my parts because I've worked with them for a while, I can read the journal and go, oh, that's Sleepy. Oh, that's Germany. Oh, that's Avers. And I plug their name in and I'll highlight it. So that, and now, well, most of the time I can do that before I talk to my counselor, but at this point in time, I didn't know those parts. I was getting to know them. And when I wrote the journals, I had no clue. It's just the stuff coming at me. So, okay, here's the 11th of June, 2024, the next day. Oh, yeah, this one. I just saw the image of a cup fall out of a woman's hand slowly and the contents pour out. And then I saw the image of what I think was a shower curtain, but I only saw 2 feet tall and 3 feet wide of it. It was pastel pink and blue and green yellow with cartoon children's faces on it, boys and girls. Then I saw the woman lying on the couch of some sort of then I saw the woman lying on a couch or some sort of bed. She was passed out, the goblet of blood slowly pouring out. She's dead, throat cut. There's dead bodies lying all over the place. Babies, children, teens, and adults. There are people in black robes licking them and cutting off pieces of flesh and eating them. There are hundreds of people, 2 black robes for every victim being raped and killed. Such slaughter and debauchery. Dogs roam and eat living and dead. A horse is guided into an adult woman to rape. A sheep, goats, room after room. They want me to see it all. This is Night now, the one who was the killer in the castle. Night is walking through the orgy rooms. A lot of people are dead. Disgusting. It's just disgusting. And these people love this. Such gusto for it. They are animals, really. Katerina says, just keep your eyes down. Don't look right at them. She was the sex slave. We are going deeper into the castle, being led to the room where Bullet would be born. Now, again, you just heard me read the story, but this is now a day or two later, and I'm getting more information because I was working on Ted. Katerina and Knight are relaxing, and Bullet is now talking. We are going deeper in the castle, being led to the room where Bullet would be born. A round stairway, up and down. I would not know how to get out of here even if I could get free. Oh, this is actually Night talking. They are everywhere. I'm so very scared. Where are they taking me and what's next? My hands are shaking. I'm naked with my hands bound. There's so many of them all, just waiting for me in a circle room full of pillars. All blackness and cold. Torch fire. This is hell itself, and I have to stand in the center. The very, very tall one meets me in the center. That's when he puts the bullet in my mouth. He says very casually, don't drop it or there'll be hell to pay. But he laughs like the devil, and everyone else does too. Inhuman sounds. It shivers down my spine. I can feel myself need to go to the bathroom. He waves his hands very specifically and dramatically, and his robe follows them. There are incantations and spells. He's calling the demons. Now, Spirit is a part of me, the Spirit of God within me, and her name is Spirit. Spirit can see them entering. There are thousands of them. She encircles Bullet. She and the shield of Jesus surround us. Nothing can touch us as long as Jesus is here, and he is here. Now they're all moving in and now stepping back. There are swords everywhere coming at me, and now they swoop in and now they step back. There's guns everywhere. I'm cold and shaking. Demons are circling around and around. They dive in and out of the black robes. Spirit, my part, encircles me, never wavering. She defies them. Nothing can get through. A big demon enters in a black robe and approaches me. He says his words in demon words, and then he says them again in twisted English. Then the robe, and then the next robe, over and over and over, all 13 directions of the earth. Now that big black man is in front of me again. Now it's not a black man, it's a big man in a black robe. That's just how my part wrote this. He towers over me. He cut my hands free. What does that mean? And now he kicks my knee and I fall at his feet. And I need a drink of water right now. He makes me lick his bare, filthy feces and urine and blood-stained feet. I have to lick them clean. It took a long, long time. And I was so humiliated when I wrote this, and now I don't feel so much so. Knight would not allow me to vomit. He inhumanely, okay. So this demon guy, he inhumanely turns his feet at a 90-degree angle vertically. This is not human. He has disgusting, long, sharp, black stained nails. He tells me to lick under them, too. I do. So debasing and humiliating. Once he is satisfied, he nods. He put the bullet back in my mouth. He laughs and says again, "Don't drop it or there will be hell to pay." Two black robes take me away. Somehow I know they are women. A hood is put over my head and I'm led out of the castle. I can smell fresh air. Then I trip up the stairs. I trip upstairs. We are inside again. They pull the hood off. I step in a bathtub with a pink shower curtain. It's bizarrely out of place because everything is so dark and dingy. They use a hose and hosed me down. It's like a fire hose and its pressure. It's pure cold water pinning me to the wall. I turn and turn to protect myself. The water off. They tell me to get dressed. I'm wet. My eyes are having a hard time focusing. Finally, I focus and see my things among other people's things. I'm pushed from the back and told to get dressed. I do, but I'm shaking and fumbling. I drop the bullet out of my mouth. Backhand uppercut from the jaw to the eye. When I'm pushed out the door, I fall down the stairs. The driver picks me up and the bullet backhand uppercuts me and shoves the bullet back in my mouth again. He shoves me in the army vehicle. I see the building I just came from briefly. Knight was given a bayonet to kill children. He did so. Katerina was raped all over, back and forth over and over. They were both parched and starving. They drank blood. Feces and urine may be in it. They were shoved from room to room. Finally, sunrise. They were led up and down the stairs to the round room. Here's Katerina said that she was sodomized by a goat while black robes cackled. Excruciating. Mouth too. Orgy all over. One animal in each room. We were the show. Kill and sex. Spirit encircled them too. My part. Knight just slaughtered all night long. He says he was forbidden to kill the black robes. Trip was whispering in his ear to do so. My other part, my rebellious part. He sliced throats, chopped off heads, stabbed hearts, disemboweled, over and over. Whatever drug we were given, we could see multicolored energy moving as bodies moved. We were wide awake and had plenty of energy. It was only when we stopped seeing the colors and started to get tired that we were led to the circle room. Bullet was so tired and hungry and terrified. Katerina is worried that she will never be a normal woman sexually. She is torn up inside. Sick remembers it burning when she pooped or peed for about a month. Knight is worried he will never have a normal heart to love anyone. Bullet is worried that she has gone insane. That the three of them, the trinity of body and mind and heart, are destroyed forever. That they are ruined forever. None of us wanted to. We had to do those things. This is Diana telling you that you are not ruined forever. You were not ruined. Spirit protected you with Jesus. Jesus healed our body. Jesus healed our heart. Jesus protected our mind. Because of what you endured, we are all here today with a perfectly healthy body and mind and heart. We now get to heal our mind. Thank you. Siggy, Another part that smokes. Siggy is starting to break down now. She is crying. She wants a cigarette and she does not want a cigarette. She said to me that she is done now, meaning smoking. She doesn't want to be lost or forgotten, but she has no more purpose. This is Diana to let you know that you will never be lost or forgotten. You protected our mind. Our mind is what got us here. We will find a new purpose for you. We will help you. We will find a new purpose, I promise. Now, Katerina broke down crying. Bullet broke down crying. Knight had taken off his armor about a half an hour ago. Knight now broke down crying. He hollered and cried. We are going to beat the hell out of Ted first of all, and next we will figure out collaboration with the others and new purposes. And then this is another thought that I recorded. It occurred to me that the 3 babies never had any kind of life at all. I had 3 abortions. Oh no, I'm talking about Katerina, Bullet, and Knight. I'm sorry. It occurred to me that the 3 babies, and they're not babies, they were like 22. So I thought that what we could do was all of us could nurture them with our knowledge and our wishes and desires and hopes. And oh no, these are my 3 abortions I'm talking about here. I'm sorry. It occurred to me that the 3 babies never had any kind of life at all. So I thought what we could do is all of us could nurture them with our knowledge and with our wishes and desires and hopes and dreams of what life should have been, will be, into those 3 babies and let them grow and let them grow up. They take nothing from any of us, but we share to give them life. They could be the embodiment of our new life together, or something like that. But those 3 babies have certainly been present during this entire memory recall. Those 3 are tied with you 3, who are tied with all of us. So let's see how this turns out. So that was the last journal entry. And I think I may have read ahead one day here. I'm not sure if that last journal entry goes with the next section of this one, but we'll see as it goes along. You'll forgive me, it's not perfectly synced up, but I guess what I want to let you know is that and you all must know this already. Nothing comes in chronological order. It's always just these random it's like a reel of a movie film. You know, you have each different I don't know, you could sell if that's what they call it, I don't know. Imagine cutting that up and then throwing it into a pile and mixing it all up. And all of a sudden you pick up one of those little things and this is the memory you have. And then this is the memory. And you have no idea if they're connected in time or space or people. And it can be challenging. And that's why I started. Well, Jon told me to do, chart out your emotional timeline, your age and your impact, and that way you can see how things go together. And the charts and graphs really help you to either eliminate a possible time period or rule it in and say, you know what, these things were happening in this time frame. So let me put it here. I know it didn't happen then, but here. So having these different references on paper really makes a difference, and it helps you isolate and pinpoint when and maybe just when something happened. And if you could figure out the other thing that happened in that time period with their locations, you can start to figure out the location of where it happened. And the more you do that, the more parts are co-conscious with you, they can help you pinpoint things, right? But when you're in the beginning stage, it's just kind of a jumble until you start getting more and more memories and filling in the puzzle, it makes more sense. So I've been going on, I think, an hour and a half now. I wish this thing had a counter on it, but it doesn't. So I'm just using Zoom and having a meeting with myself and recording it. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for coming along on my journey. Thank you to all of those of you who have sent me emails or commented and they're positive. it's really encouraging, and I appreciate it. Thank you. God bless you all. God bless you with exactly what you need when you need it in the way that you need it. And dear Jesus, please surround and protect all the survivors doing this work with impenetrable shields of your love, with your holy angels standing guard, an army of them. Please comfort us, love us, give us courage and strength to see these horrendous, horrific things. Buffer the memory, not the memory, but buffer the emotions connected with the memories so that we're not traumatized again. Um, I ask God to help you be able to remain in your primary personality, your front personality, as you're witnessing and remember these things so that you can have the analytical insight to be able to interact with that part that's showing you. And you can comfort them and explain things to them and talk to them while it's happening. Father, please bind all powers, principalities, spiritual wickedness in all places on all planes of existence, and bind all the dark powers of this world in every realm from interference with these survivors, so that they may remember, so that they may heal, so that they may regain their sovereignty and strength, and know that Jesus saved and protected them and was their warrior, and in realizing that, Jesus, they become your warrior. And we can start to really make an impact in this world instead of there being one or five or 10 of us scattered all over, or Emma's 50 or 60 or 100 people. We can start turning into 1,000 and 10,000 and 100,000 of us, and we can walk on Washington or whatever we're going to do and demand an end to this and imprison these people and upend the government. I don't know if this is naive or what, but Father, I ask that you help us all heal and become your warriors. So God bless you all. Thank you. And I'll see you next time.